This is Stephen Howson, this is Full Time Devils, and this is post-match Manchester United 0, Southampton 0. What else can you say? Not really the most exciting game in the world, although there was some pretty exciting moments. I thought Sergio Romero was absolutely phenomenal in goal. Brilliant save for the penalty, and then he pulled off another couple during the course of the game. I thought he was by far and away man of the match. I thought Bay looked good at right back, very exciting. A little bit more free and able to bomb forward and try and impart something on the game rather than just his defensive side. I think he's an absolutely fantastic player, and I think we're going to be a poorer side without him in the final next week. But you could tell that the final was weighing on everybody's minds, that players wasn't really interested in playing with any sort of tempo or real heart, and that's a bit of a shame. And maybe that's another reason why you maybe want to throw in some of the young players. The young players are going to try, and the young players are going to really put that effort in because they probably know they're not going to start in the final, but this is a chance for them to impress the manager, whereas some of the first team players are thinking, I might get a game in the final, don't want to go out, risk it, get injured and then miss the thing. Speaking of which, Fellaini and Mata both went straight down the tunnel after their substitutions, so hopefully there's nothing wrong there, and maybe they're just getting straight onto recovery of some sort. I don't know, maybe getting straight on an ice bath. I'm not sure what the situation was there, but I do think it is a little bit worrying because, again, if we lose any more players ahead of Ajax next week, I think we're struggling. We are pretty threadbare as it is, and I threw a tweet out earlier, I don't know how many of you saw it, that the starting 11 that we had that didn't play tonight was arguably a lot better than the starting 11 that did play tonight, or at least the one that started anyway. And that illustrates where we're at, and as it stands now, we just need to get through Sunday. As you know, we're not picking up points, we're not picking up victories, we're not picking up wins, we're not really going to be doing anything in the league. We just need to fulfil our fixture on Sunday, and then it's full steam ahead Stockholm, where our season literally pivots. And you know, you can get giddy talking about how we're going to do next year, but I think we can't really start the planning and preparation for next year unless we know which competition we're going to win. I think Jose Mourinho supposedly handed in 2 transfer lists, one if we get Europa and one if we get the Champions League. I hope that they're not too different, because I think that there is a massive need for upgrades in certain areas of the squad. Maybe it's just that personnel that, you know, there's rumours that Gareth Bale has said he'll come if we get Champions League. Griezmann has said he'll come if we get Champions League, according to the press. So maybe it's just a case of we've got plan A and we've got plan B. But do you know what? It's better than having no plan whatsoever. It sounds like we're going to get our work done early doors. But I said 90 minutes in the way before we can start thinking about Stockholm, or before we should really start thinking about Stockholm, because let's face it, we are thinking about Stockholm, aren't we? We're already thinking about Stockholm right now, and you could tell that on the players tonight, you could tell that on the players in the last 2, maybe 3 matches that we've had in the league, that you can tell the players are already focusing on Stockholm. If we go through the players' performances tonight, wasn't filled with confidence with Smalling and Jones. Darmian was relatively anonymous. I thought Bay was good at the back, but that was about it. Tuanzebe was getting dragged all over in central midfield, to be expected. You know, he doesn't play there, that's not his position. Looked pretty comfortable when he was given the ball. Fellaini never give him the ball. I don't know if Fellaini's got some sort of thing going on where he's like, you know what, I'm just going to see if I can not pass to Tuanzebe tonight. Fellaini looked alright. It looked like we was trying to target him and trying to get him on the end of something for breaking the deadlock. Martial with the ball at his feet looked like he could do something, but then his passes was a bit sloppy, and Wayne Rooney at times looked alright, and then, you know, the turn that he had, the opportunity he had inside the box, you're just thinking, like, how unfit are you? Juan Mata was relatively anonymous, should have buried the chance that he had late in the game. And Mkhitaryan, again, dribbling through the middle, he looks great, but he was in and out of the game all over the place. So not really a great performance for anybody in the United side, apart from Sergio Romero, who was arguably flawless. And I think that's what we're going to have to suffer with for the next 90 minutes at least when we face Crystal Palace at Old Trafford on Sunday. And then again, we have to look forward to that game. And that's the only game that's on my mind. I'm sure that's the only game that's on your mind. It's the only thing that we can think about, because this is the most important thing. I mean, it's literally like an under-23 game. It's literally like a friendly on Sunday. Yeah, I want to win it. I never want to see United lose a game. But it don't really matter, does it? Like, you're like, if you told me I'll get beat 10-0 on Sunday, but we'll win the Cup on Wednesday, I'd be like, sound. But no one's offering me that, are they? So let's see what you guys are saying in the comments, if they come on. The Random says Mata had nothing to offer, he was poor. Little Dark One said bet 0-0, won me some good dosh. It's probably not a bad bet at the moment, is it? Manu Fanatic says Jones looked good. I'm not really sure about that, in all honesty, I think. Marshall looks tired, says Guledis. Yeah, maybe he did look tired. Shows how important balance is in a team. When Rashford came on, Marshall came alive, says Julian. It's not a bad comment. Yeah, I think so. The players that did come on, Herrera injected a little bit of a spark. Rashford injected a little bit of a spark. Carrick, relatively just run-of-the-mill game for Carrick once he came on. But yeah, I think Rashford's always going to inject a little bit of a spark because that's in his nature, and the same can be said really for Herrera as well. We could easily lose in Europe, says Will. I know, and that's the problem. And that's why I've always thought it's a massive, massive gamble that Jose Mourinho's taking. And maybe it is the right one when it got to this stage of the season where you can see that we're not really... I think once we drew against Bournemouth and then the Swansea result, when it was in our hands on both of those occasions, once we fluffed our lines there and arguably at several other points throughout the season, once we fluffed our lines there, Jose Mourinho basically had to decide, and he decided he was going with the Europa League. Now, we can only analyse whether that was the right or wrong thing to do at the end of the season. It was less games to win by that point. Winnable games, you could arguably say as well. And now we have a 90-minute final to dictate whether we're playing Champions League football or not next season, which is where we need to be. And I think that's, well, the way we sit right now. If we had to go beat Spurs and we had to beat Arsenal to guarantee ourselves away, I think it'd have been a massive, massive struggle. Would it have been harder than beating Ajax in a one-off game? Yeah, I think it probably would have been. So I think Jose's played the percentages. I think he's looked at it in a pure mathematical term and he's gone, we can beat Ajax with a couple of weeks preparation going into it. That's why we're seeing rotated squads. I hope that's not why we're seeing squads that or sides that are not putting in a lot of effort, because there's not really an excuse for not putting in effort. And I see a lot of people in the comments here saying like it's not good enough for Manchester United, and it's not. But ultimately, this is what you have to do to win the competition. If we'd have won all of these games and still come fifth and finished outside of the Champions League places, it doesn't matter. What matters is that game in Stockholm. Yeah, it's not nice, it's not pretty, no one's sitting here enjoying being in this position, but ultimately, this is the position that we're in, isn't it? And we have to play what we're playing, in all honesty, and that's it. Do I want James next season, says, and someone called MUFC, and that's the one. I think we're getting him. I don't know if I want him. If, in my mind, yeah, he's a good player, and we should always want to get good players in whenever we can get good players in. I'm just not sure where he fits in, but I don't know Jose Mourinho's plans. I don't know how he's figuring out this team, and going off his signings last season, I have to put my faith in him. I think he did a really good job identifying what United needed ahead of the season when he didn't know the team and the players that he had. And I think now he's had these players for a year, I think he'll hopefully be able to put in a more astute assessment of what he needs in a transfer market. So if Jose wants him, I'm sure it's for a purpose, and I'm behind him on that. I do think we're going to sign a dud. I hope it's not Rodriguez, but statistically, 1 in 2 transfers is classed as non-successful, and that was under Sir Alex Ferguson, that's been under Mourinho. That is every single manager around the world. The hit rate of successful, what you would call really successful transfers, is about 1 in 2. Now, Jose, for me, got 4 out of 4 last season, so we're probably, well, if you go on pure statistics, we're due 4 duds, aren't we? But I don't think we'll get 4 duds. I think we're going to sign 3 or 4 really good players, but I think one of them's probably not going to be a cracker. But I'll take that. I think I'll take that definitely. James is in my eyes, quite a similar player to Mata and quite a similar player to Mkhitaryan in terms of the space that they operate in on the pitch, which makes me think that the long-term plan for possibly Mata, being the oldest, isn't one that's at Old Trafford. Maybe it's him elsewhere. Maybe he's used as part of a deal. Maybe he's used to free up a bit of wage or a bit of transfer budget. I don't know. That's the side of the plan that I don't know, and that's the unknown factor that I don't really like. And I think we are going to go heavy in the transfer market. There was talk today of a fee agreed with Will Keane for 25 million, which is mental considering we let him go not long ago. I'm not sure he's a £25 million defender. I think he's a good player. Is he of Bailly level? No. And I think in a couple of years, I think you could see the likes of Axel Tuanzebe, Fosu Mensah or Rochelle Williams easily attaining the level that Michael Keane has attained. If we're buying in for the homegrown / English factor, then it makes a little bit more sense. because there seems to be a lot of rumours that we're going to be shipping out a lot of players. Now, Michael Carrick looks like he's been set to offer an extension on his contract. How much influence or how much game time he'll get next year, I don't really know. I do think Wayne Rooney's probably going to go. I think I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe Ashley Young and one of, if not both, of Phil Jones and Smalling moved on. So when all that happens, you lose a lot of your English core, and that's not a major issue, but you do need a certain amount of players trained in your country for Champions League. And I think that's something that United might be sailing a bit close to the wind on if we allow all of those English players to go. So if we're replenishing them, and we've also got in the squad the likes of Tuanzebe, the likes of Lingard, the likes of Rashford and Carrick and Shaw, and we add to that with the likes of Keane and possibly another English player or so, maybe even if it's a younger one with a bit of potential, then I think United look decent going forward on that front at least. I think Mourinho's going to sign a midfielder. Certainly he's going to strengthen the defence, and I think we're probably going to sign somebody up front. There's talk of literally everybody, and I try and speak to people that might have an idea, and the more people I speak to, the more confused I become. This guy's hearing one thing. I speak to one guy and he's like, De Gea's definitely gone. I speak to another guy who's like, I'm hearing De Gea's staying, and you're like, I'm hearing both. So what's going on with that one? And then you speak to other people and you're like, Griezmann's absolutely nailed on, and you go, all right, cool, and you go, Rodriguez is nailed on. It's either or, one or the other, and you're like, well, fucking hell, who's telling the truth here? And ultimately, everyone can be telling the truth because that's what they know and that's what they've heard. Ultimately, we just don't know, and that's what makes transfer season so frustrating from a fan point of view, because there is probably some element of truth in every single rumour that you read, unless it's in the Metro or the MEN. But that doesn't mean that you can just randomly believe everything. I think United are working on deals, and I think we're probably going to get some deals over the line pretty early. I hope so at least, but I hope it's because we're in Champions League on the back of that as well. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. Adam's going to be coming very soon, live from St Mary's, and we'll have all the fan cams and all the rest of that stuff. So keep it locked to Full Time Devils, and I'll see you soon. Laters.